How's it going, YouTube? My name is ElvinNinja7, your resident Mistweaver monk, and in today's video, I'm going to bring you guys a guide for a raid build built around Chi and Ancient Teachings. Now, before we actually get into this build, I'm going to talk a bit about why you would want to play this build over your traditional Yu'lon ramp 1-minute ramp build. And the long story short is the healing profile of both builds is completely different. With the 1-minute Yu'lon ramp build, you're utilizing something like Cloud of Focus that can chunk, like amping up, chunking Vivifies, and those are going to be cleaving and getting a lot of value from how much each of your Vivifies doing. However, in content that is not mythic rating or the final boss in heroic, on content like that where it's like normal or heroic or even 10-man raids, the damage that your group is taking is a lot less significant. The time to top up your allies is a lot less. So you'll see a lot of raid groups either taking like 1 or 2 healers toward the end of a tier so that they can really get those high parses, or you'll just see people taking different builds that don't rely on those massive 500k HPS ramps, builds like Ancient Teachings that do a lot of small heals as opposed to a lot of big chunky heals, like a million little tiny paper cut heals. That way, a lot less healing is lost to overhealing. Like if you were to take Cloud of Focus into a normal boss, a lot of this 15% bonus to your Vivifies, 30% bonus to your Vivifies will just be lost to overhealing. Thus, although this talent is technically able to do more healing than an Ancient Teachings build, in that scenario, you're just not getting the full potential from a talent like Cloud of Focus. But instead, this build utilizes the fact that now Ancient Teachings spreads its healing to 5 different targets based on your damage. You're doing a lot of Essence Font healing with Feline Stomp, spamming, shooting that through your allies, and then using a fully stacked Upwelling with Thunder Focus Tea on an Essence Font to do a big large chunk heal on a lot of the raid group. And then, like I said before, the choice of Celestial is really up to you. If you think you still need those 1-minute ramps, it's totally fine to swap to Yu'lon and then swap to Gift of the Celestials. However, in today's video, we're specifically just going to be talking about Chi, because if you want to learn more about Yu'lon and doing that 1-minute ramp, and you might want to do a hybrid build of Yu'lon with Ancient Teachings, then you can go check out my other video on the Yu'lon ramp. But like I said, the Yu'lon ramp is intended to get those large, chunky, massive ramps, whereas a Chi window, since we're taking Jade Bond, it's still going to last its full duration of 25 seconds. And while it's out, while Chi is out, anytime that we kick, so any of our blackout kicks, even if they cleave, if we take something like Ancient Concordance, or all of our Rising Sun kicks, and even spinning crane kicks, are going to kick up mastery procs. So you're going to be doing a lot of healing through that, but also your ramps are a lot smaller but longer, which that healing profile usually benefits in like a heroic raid environment where maybe now your Chi can cover 2 smaller mechanics instead of having to cover 2 on top of each other. So you'll see a build similar to this one, or like there are a lot of different variations of this build, but you'll see a build built around something like Ancient Teachings in these first few weeks, when everyone's kind of grinding through these earlier stage content, like normal raids, some of the earlier heroic bosses. So if you want to master Mistweaver, there's so many different builds out there nowadays. Now, before we fully break down all the different variations and all the purposes of all these talents that we take, we're going to talk a bit about the stat weights. This build does get a lot harder to gear. So it does gear a bit differently than the Yu'lon raid build does. So you really have to ask yourself, where do I intend on landing? Am I just pushing for AOTC, or am I pushing in mythic raiding, or am I only doing normal raids with my guild? If your answer is that you plan to push AOTC or push even beyond that, like pushing mythic raiding, then I would suggest not even devoting any crests or any crafts toward this build. Just build, like pick substats that work with the Yu'lon build, because you'll end up transitioning to that build once you get to that later game content. However, if you fully intend on playing a build like this, a build built around Chi for the entire tier, that's where these stat weights will get into. So how these stat weights work, you probably already noticed that I've mentioned mastery, and that's because mastery works pretty well with this build, we're going to be kicking up a lot of mastery procs. Thus, mastery just gets a lot more value in a build like this, a build built around Chi-Ji, than it would in a normal Yu'lon build. Now, that does not make mastery surpass any of our other stats. You should not try to just jam mastery like you have in tiers past, because we still get a ton of value from haste. You know, the more haste you have, the more globals you can fit even in those Chi-Ji windows or outside of those Chi-Ji windows, the faster you can drink your mana tea potion. And all in all, haste is just still going to be your best way to increase your healing. So you're going to want to push your haste to around, once again, 27 to 30%, just like you would with the Yu'lon build. Crit is still your second best stat, especially since it can crit your mana tea stacks, just giving you more mana to work with. Crit is an excellent stat, but from that point, mastery and verse are really even, because mastery, like I said, gets a lot of procs with this build, but verse just adds more damage, it scales your healing, and it even scales your mastery procs itself. So since the gearing is a lot more difficult with a build like this, it's not just, you know, jam the two best stats like the other build. I cannot express to you enough that it's worth it to just sim your character and see what works best for you. But with the stat weights out of the way, we can kind of finally break down this build. So you'll notice that I only have 1 point in Phaeline, and this is the build that I take if I'm taking a single target boss. Like if I'm about to fight a boss that does not spawn any adds or doesn't have significant uptime on things to cleave off of, this is your build. You kick up a lot of Phaeline stomps. Your Tiger Palms don't hit twice, and your Blackout Kicks don't cleave, but the idea is that you don't need them to. And then you don't want to sacrifice 2 of these very good points in order to just get your Tiger Palms to hit twice, since basically every talent beyond this line is very integral to the build. If we wanted to sacrifice Sheilun's gift, then we would be giving up Rising Mist, which is just our best talent. On single target, we do get a lot of value from the haste gained when we summon Chi-Ji, and even the haste that we're going to be getting out of our secret infusion, because that will allow us to cycle those enveloping mist quicker, as if we had those blackout kicks cleaving. We don't in single target fights, but we're going to be casting more often, thus allowing us to get to those free enveloping mists quicker. But where this build becomes tricky and allows for a slight variation is, what if you are on a 3 target cleaving fight? Think your council fight. The council this tier is not a 3 target cleaving fight. It's more of a 2 target cleaving fight, since the 2 ranged mobs stay so far out. But think your fights like Gnarl Root or Agira, the one with the spears that you have to cleave off of a big portion of the fight. Fights where you will get enough value out of those 3 target cleaving blackout kicks, then you can sacrifice one of these talent points. Now, I would recommend sacrificing Invoker's Delight. I know it's a great talent, but since you're not summoning Chi-Ji once every minute, your uptime on this buff is a lot less than with the Yu'lon build, and you're gaining so much value outside of your ramps and even inside of your ramps if you can cleave off those blackout kicks, because it really smooths out your Chi-Ji ramps. It'll get you to 3 stacks a lot faster, and you don't really need that haste buff, especially if you're utilizing Secret Infusion to get that haste buff. But like I said, all these other talents, Upwelling gets so much value right now. Rising Mist is just the best talent, and Ancient Teachings, obviously we're not going to drop that. So in order to get access to the 3 target cleaving, I would recommend dropping your Invoker's Delight. And then what about fights where there's significant cleave and there's 7+ adds that spawn at a time, and you actually will get value from spinning Crane Kicking? After you drop Invoker's Delight for Ancient Concordance, you could then drop one of your 2 Secret Infusion points to access Awakened Phaeline. This will make your Tiger Palms hit twice and give you a lot of value with Teachings of the Monastery stacks, making your Blackout Kicks hit all 3 of those targets a lot more times. You will get a lot more Blackout Kick value in a fight, thus getting a lot more Rising Sun Kick value, since your Rising Sun Kicks will be reset more often. So how I like to do this build is if I'm on a cleaving fight, I take this variation, but if I'm not on a cleaving fight, if it's a single target boss and I want to play a Chi-Ji Ancient Teachings build, I take this variation. So I'll have one of these builds linked down in the description below for you guys to import, and then just know that would, you know, given the scenario, given the boss that you're coming up to, you can make a swap similar to this, or you could just take this 1 point if you just want your blackout kicks to cleave. You don't care about the tiger palms double hitting. Now, getting into the rotation, I'm going to start off with your cooldowns. You still have revival. Now, I would like to warn you guys, on the second to last boss, I believe it's Tendril, you might want to swap to Restoral because you don't want to instant dispel. You'll nuke your whole raid. But for the most part, you just take revival because it's safest. You don't really get stunned. You could also take Energizing Brew. This build does benefit a lot from life cycles, but if you're someone who just is a diehard Energizing Brew, you want that quick chug so you can get back into the action, that's totally fine. Just know that you'll get a lot less mana return if you take Energizing Brew over life cycles. And then if you know the timers of a boss line up very well once about every minute, then you can swap to a 1 minute Chi-Ji rotation. But at that point, you might as well go a 1 minute Yu'lon. But for the most part, for most fights, you're going to get a lot of Jade Bond value, since all those mastery procs that you're kicking up during your Chi-Ji ramp do count toward the cooldown reduction of Chi-Ji. But I've already talked a little bit about Chi-Ji, so we'll come back to that because that is pretty rotation defining. But you want to play around your upwelling. Once this hits 18 stacks, once your essence font is at 18 stacks, it channels for a lot longer, does a lot more healing, hits more targets. And if you buff it with Thunder Focus Tea, it'll channel twice as fast, making it twice as efficient. And then if you reduce the mana cost of this by using Mana Tea, it becomes 4 times as efficient. If you use both of your teas and then use Essence Font, it costs half as much mana, channels for half as much time, but gets that full value. It's just insane. It does a lot of healing. So once about every 30 seconds, you want to be looking to use that combo. You don't want to press Essence Font on cooldown because you want it to get to a high stack count so it does more. But you'll see a ton more value out of Essence Font if you save it for when damage actually happens. If you just press it once you hit 18 stacks and everyone's at full health, you'll lose so much healing to overhealing. But if you wait until a big slam happens, everyone gets knocked back, and you start channeling that Essence Font with Thunder Focus Tea boost right once that damage happens, all that healing is going to get sponged up by missing health, and you'll see huge HPS numbers from that alone. Also, another major area of optimization is Sheilun's Gift. Now, with this build, we are taking Xiao's Lesson. So you'll want to get a buff from Xiao's Lesson. One, if you know an instance is coming up that you're gonna utilize Upwelling with Thunder Focus Tea, you want to boost yourself. You want to make that heal more. So Sheilun's Gift, before that damage comes out, so right once that damage comes out, you can use a boosted Upwellinged Xiao's Lessened Essence Font with Thunder Focus Tea to get massive HPS. Or you want to use Sheilun's Gift before your Chi-Ji. That way you come into your Chi-Ji window with that boosted, or whichever buff you have available to you. Ideally, you either have your haste buff or your crit buff coming into your Chi-Ji, but honestly, all these buffs are very powerful. Just those two are the highest priority ones. Now, the rotation for this playstyle is actually a lot harder. Now, at the surface, you can just get a lot of value from optimizing your Ancient Teachings rotation. However, we're going to be still getting a lot of free Renewing Mist, and we're still playing Invigorating Mist. And with all the Vivify buffs that we've seen, there are a lot of scenarios where casting Vivify is still our most valuable spell. So on the surface, at a baseline, since I can't watch all of your fights that you're doing and tell you at any given moment what the best spell to press is, what I can do is give you a simplified rotation, and then as scenarios change, as you're fighting and certain things happen, like maybe your mage stands in a swirly and you need to stop your optimal Ancient Teachings rotation because now in this moment, casting a fully powered Vivify into that target is probably the best usage of that global cooldown in that point in time. But for the most part, let me go ahead and give you guys a simplified rotation for this build. Now we're going to do it on a single target dummy. It will look different. Your rotation will look different on cleaving fights because, like I said, you will take a different talent build. But for the most part, we're just going to be talking about the single target dummy for now. Now, your priority number one is to always have Ancient Teachings active. You do this by casting Feline Stomp on cooldown, but you'll also be casting some boosted essence fonts here and there that will also help you keep that Ancient Teachings buff active at all points in time. So number one, keep Ancient Teachings active. Number two, do not sit at 2 Renewing Mist charges. You guys should be used to this by now. Always make sure that at least one of these charges is refreshing. We're going to be casting a lot more Rising Sun Kicks than normal with this build, so you want to make sure that you always have those Renewing Mist charges rolling so that you can extend them and have more value out of those HOTS. Third on the priority list after Feline, after Renewing Mist, is Rising Sun Kick. Now, you could argue this is number one on the priority list, but ideally you always want to have Ancient Teachings active before you press Rising Sun Kick, so that's why I put this at number 3. But Rising Sun Kick is your highest HPS spell at most given points, because you have to factor in the fact that you're extending all of your HOTS, and that includes all the Essence Font HOTS, all the free Renewing Mist HOTS. It also includes just the free Renewing Mist HOT that you're getting from Rapid Diffusion, but also with this build, you're gaining even more healing from your Rising Sun Kick, because Ancient Teachings makes it heal for a lot of healing. So you factor all those talents in, and all of a sudden Rising Sun Kick is at most points in time your best button to press. And then after that, you have to remember that you still get a lot of value from your Vivifies. So don't think that just because you're playing an Ancient Teachings build, you should not cast your Vivifies. You should ideally cast your free instant cast Vivify with this build close to on cooldown, close to once every 10 seconds. And then lastly, after all those things, after you're casting your Vivifies, after you're casting your Rising Sun Kicks, you're keeping that Ancient Teachings buff active. Your filler spells are Blackout Kick, Tiger Palm, and Mana Tea. Yes, Mana Tea. So Blackout Kick, the idea here is that it resets, or it has a chance to reset the cooldown of your Rising Sun Kick. So not only are you getting solid healing from Ancient Teachings with Blackout Kick, but Blackout Kick could reset your Rising Sun Kick, leading to a better sequence of events for you. So next in line after all those spells, your first filler spell, your first priority in filler spells is Blackout Kick. And then after that is Tiger Palms. So if Rising Sun Kick, Blackout Kick are both off cooldown, you have Ancient Teachings, you're not below both stacks of Renewing Mist, and you don't have a free Vivify that would get good value, like no one's at below 90% health, then you can press Tiger Palm pretty comfortably. And you can even press it a couple times in a row and stack it up for your next Blackout Kick to get very good value. And then the reason why I mentioned Mana Tea as a filler spell is because most of your mana that you're spending will be outside of your Chi-Ji window. And if you know that you're about to press an Essence Font, you can either tap Mana Tea and cancel it really quickly to get 1 stack of Mana Tea to make your next cast, which would be Essence Font, to make it cheaper on mana, since it costs so much ridiculous amounts of mana. Or you can just use this downtime, use your outside of ramp when no one's taking serious damage, to just channel a solid long duration Mana Tea. But your Rising Sun Kicks, your Renewing Mists, your Vivifies that you're going to be casting outside of your Chi-Ji window are going to cost a good amount of mana, so it's good to use Mana Tea. Make sure you don't sit at 20 stacks of this as well. And if we wrap all of that together, it should look a bit something like this. So we're going to Ancient Teachings, Rising Sun Kick. We're sitting at 2 charges. We have our Vivifies available. We're going to do that again. We can start spamming Vivifies during this downtime until Rising Sun Kick comes up. Rising Sun Kick, Renewing Mist, Blackout Kick, and then say that some damage happened right then. Do a fully channeled Essence Font again. But once again, we want to make sure we always have Ancient Teachings. Rising Sun Kick is our next priority. Staying below 2 charges of Renewing Mist is our next priority. Utilizing these instant Vivifies is a very high priority if a big chunk of someone's health is missing, and if we have a lot of Renewing Mist out naturally. And then after that, you just want to get some good Ancient Teachings value from your Blackout Kick, your Tiger Palm, and utilizing those 2 spells to try to reset your Rising Sun Kick and start the whole rotation over again. Now, on a cleaving fight, like I said, we're going to change our build up slightly, and we're going to be cleaving more. Our Tiger Palms are going to hit twice because we have Awakened Feline, and since we have Ancient Concordance, our Blackout Kicks are going to cleave onto 3 targets. So now those are higher priority spells. And they do change up our rotation slightly. So number 1, most notably, is Tiger Palming twice on your Feline now will give you 4 stacks of your Teachings of the Monastery, making your Blackout Kick hit so many times. If you have 3 targets to cleave and you have 4 stacks of Teachings of the Monastery, you're going to hit a total of 15 times when you hit Blackout Kick, which leads to a very, very high chance to reset your Rising Sun Kick cooldown, but also a very high amount of Ancient Teachings healing. So in this scenario, when we have a cleaving boss like this, when we have those cleaving scenarios, so whether 2 bosses are stacked or the boss spawns their adds, I like to basically remove Vivify from my rotation for the time being until someone needs some serious amount of healing. Just know that Vivify is our way of spot healing, how we gain agency over who gets healing, because with Ancient Teachings, we don't get to pick where that healing goes. So if you see someone fall low, you best believe you should stop your rotation, your Ancient Teachings rotation, and spot heal them with Vivify. However, for the most part in those scenarios, your rotation is primarily your Ancient Teachings rotation. So you're going to Feline Stomp, we're going to Rising Sun Kick, Blackout Kick. We did not get a reset, so we're going to Tiger Palm twice, Blackout Kick, Rising Sun Kick, Tiger Palm twice, Blackout Kick. We're going to refresh that Ancient Teachings buff, Rising Sun Kick, Blackout Kick. We got the reset, so Rising Sun Kick again, Blackout Kick, Rising Sun Kick, Blackout Kick. And then once we don't get a reset, we can Tiger Palm twice, Blackout Kick, and then do it all again. So the rotation is very simple there. But just know that there will be a lot of scenarios where it's worth it to stop that rotation and start casting Vivify. So since you see we're getting a lot more Rising Sun Kick rotations, we're getting a lot more Renewing Mists out. So we gain a lot of healing from all that cleaving that's possible. And there are just certain scenarios where people take a ton of damage to where now all of a sudden this healing profile of doing all this tickle damage on 5 targets becomes less worth it than spot healing some chunkier Vivify healing. So a lot of this build, a lot of mastering this build, getting better or improving at this build will come from making that decision in the moment from you guys. So you have to assess the damage that's coming in and know your healing profile of all your different spells. Vivify's a chunkier spot heal, but your Ancient Teaching rotation is just better at maintenance healing, healing up people who are basically like 90% of health, or everyone's taking even damage. So you'll gain a lot of mastery yourself with this build from just, making that delineation. Should I stop this Ancient Teachings rotation and start spamming Vivify? Will that in this moment do more healing? Like I said, that is very fight dependent and just takes practice. But for the most part, like I said, you have a simplified rotation of certain scenarios, having cleaving bosses or cleaving fights and having single target fights. So hopefully that helps you with the base rotation and helps you getting started with this build. But the final thing that I want to talk about, and I've kind of saved it for last in this video, is your Chi-Ji. Your Chi-Ji, since I opted to take it with this build, is very important. It's one of your major cooldowns. However, like I said, it is pretty interchangeable with the 1-minute cooldown Yu'lon in this build. But for this video, for the purpose of this video, we are talking about Chi-Ji. And just like I mentioned with our rotation, the Chi-Ji rotation looks very, very different on a cleaving fight than it does on a single target fight. And most of that does come from it being easier to get to 3 Chi-Ji stacks, 3 kick stacks with cleaving blackout kicks than it is when your blackout kicks don't cleave. If you only have 1 target to hit, it's harder to get to 3 stacks than it is when you have people to cleave off of. So let's start off with the single target build. What does the rotation look like with the single target build? Well, with this build, we still have the haste buff that we're going to be getting from Invoker's Delight. So that's really good. But you have to understand how you get to 3 stacks. So on the surface, Blackout Kick is just worth 1 stack of Chi-Ji. Rising Sun Kick is just worth 1 stack, and Spinning Crane Kick we should not be pressing in raid, but that is technically also just worth 1 stack. However, When we stack up our Tiger Palms to make our next Blackout Kick hit more times, all those times that Blackout Kick hits will count as an additional stack, and they also will kick up Mastery procs with Chi-Ji. So we can either get to 2 or 3 stacks by pressing Rising Sun Kick, Blackout Kick. We'll have 2 stacks and we can cast a cheaper and very quick Enveloping Mist there. That's very efficient. Or if we get the reset, we can Rising Sun Kick, Blackout Kick, and then Rising Sun Kick again with that reset Rising Sun Kick and cast an instant cast Enveloping Mist. And then if we don't have Rising Sun Kick available, say that we did the Rising Sun Kick, Blackout Kick. Oh, there I get the reset. There we go. But say that I didn't. Say that I did Rising Sun Kick, Blackout Kick, don't get the reset. Then what I can do after I cast the Enveloping Mist is Tiger Palm, Blackout Kick. That Blackout Kick hit 3 times you saw there. And then I'll get 3 stacks, cast an Enveloping Mist there, and then get back to it. So Rising Sun Kick, Blackout Kick, boom. Then we Tiger Palm, Blackout Kick, get a free one there. And then Rising Sun Kick, Blackout Kick, still no reset. So we just cast it and then get back to that Tiger Palm, Blackout Kick for 3 stacks, cast another one. Now it's important to note that Chi-Ji is pretty weird because while Chi-Ji's out, you don't just want to focus on your Chi-Ji rotation. You normally want to do the Chi-Ji rotation for about 4 Enveloping Mists, and then you want to stop that rotation and cleave all those free Renewing Mists that you're getting out during your Chi-Ji, because all those free Enveloping Mists will come along with a Renewing Mist. All those Rising Sun Kicks that you're casting will come with a Renewing Mist. So once about every 4 Enveloping Mists, it's pretty ideal to stop and channel a Soothing Mist and spam some Vivifies to really utilize all those hots that we're placing out with Invigorating Mist. So let's see that in action. So before we actually summon Chi-Ji, there are some rules that you should follow to help you really optimize your Chi-Ji windows. Number 1 is to make sure that you are empty on Renewing Mist before you come into your Chi-Ji window, because the last thing that you want to do during your Chi-Ji window is to stop your rotation and cast your Renewing Mists. Number 2, you want to make sure that you have just applied your Ancient Teachings buff. So you want to make sure that you had just kicked your Feline Stomp or just used your Thunder Focus Tea Essence Font. Because like I said, during your Chi-Ji window, you're going to be casting a lot of kicks. You want those kicks to get maximum value. Thus, you want to have Ancient Teachings active during your Chi-Ji. Number 3, another buff that you want to have active is your Xiao's Lesson buff. It's just a free boost to your Chi-Ji window. You might as well press Shaylun's Gift and have that buff rolling during your Chi-Ji window. And then finally, the final thing that I'm going to say is you want all 4 stacks of your Teachings of the Monastery primed and ready for your Chi-Ji, because right once you summon Chi-Ji, you're going to press Blackout Kick. It's going to hit 5 times, kicking up 10 Mastery procs. All those Mastery procs are going to get doubled because hopefully people get Essence Font buffs on them. And it's just very optimal because the last thing you want to do right once you summon Chi-Ji is cast a couple Tiger Palms to charge this up while Chi-Ji's out. So you want to do this before you summon Chi-Ji. So let's see what that looks like. Your rotation starts before Chi-Ji comes out is the main thing that I'm trying to, get into your head. So we want to empty our Renewing Mist count. We want to summon our Feline. We want to buff ourselves with Shaylun's Gift. And then we want to Tiger Palm, Tiger Palm, Tiger Palm, Tiger Palm, and then now we are ready. I did that in a horrible order. I should have charged the Tiger Palms first, but we have all these buffs active coming into our Chi-Ji window. You know what? Let's just do it in the correct order. So I have 4 stacks of Teachings in the Monastery from pressing Tiger Palm 4 times. I'm going to Shaylun's buff myself, Renewing Mist, reapply Ancient Teachings, and then summon Chi-Ji, and then bang, 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 bang. And then we can start our rotation. And it's really that simple. And then once we cast a few Enveloping Mists, we can stop, pick a target, cast a few Vivifies, and then get right back to it. So summon our Feline, Tiger Palm, Blackout Kick, Rising Sun Kick, Blackout Kick, Enveloping Mist, Tiger Palm, Enveloping Mist. And you see there, We were casting something. We always had something to cast during that Chi-Ji window. But like I said, not only do you get a ton of value from just Chi-Ji itself, you get a ton of value from stopping during your Chi-Ji ramp to capitalize on all those hots with Invigorating Mist. And then lastly, I want to show you guys what it would look like in a cleaving scenario. This is when Chi-Ji is at its best because you're kicking a lot more times with all those cleaving blackout kicks. In this scenario, it's even more worth it to stack up your Tiger Palms before you summon Chi-Ji, but it's even easier to do so because with this build, our Tiger Palms are going to be hitting twice. So we only need to stand on our Feline and Tiger Palm twice. One gives us 2 stacks, and then another time gives us 4 stacks, and then we're good to go. We can do all of our prep. So we're going to get rid of these Renewing Mist charges. We're going to make sure that we refresh that Ancient Teachings buff, and then we're ready to go. Blackout kick hits 15 times, look at that. But then from there, we can just do our same rotation. So we're doing that same exact rotation. It's just now we're getting more value out of it. So we're Rising Sun Kick and Blackout Kick, and then refreshing that Ancient Teachings buff. And it's just the same. We Rising Sun Kick when it's ready because it'll extend all those hots that we have out, and then we Blackout Kick when it's ready to try to reset that Rising Sun Kick cooldown, but also that Blackout Kick will cleave, putting us at 3 stacks just alone. And then if we don't get that reset, if we get unlucky with that Blackout Kick reset, then we just Tiger Palm twice, which will now give us 4 stacks, giving us more value on our next Rising, or our next Blackout Kick. And then you look here, our Chi-Ji got so much of its cooldown reduced here. It's already at a 1-minute cooldown basically because of all those mastery procs that we were kicking up during our Chi-Ji window. So that's why you take Jade Bond in a build like this, in a Chi-Ji build. You normally take Jade Bond because it just gives exceptional value. So hopefully this video helped you guys out. This should go alongside my Yu'lon build. So I'm hoping that you guys have seen that video before and have all that knowledge coming into this video. Or else maybe I kind of skipped over some things expecting you guys to know, and I do apologize there. But as you can see, my throat is just closing with every word, so I appreciate you guys sticking through my sickness through this video, and I hope that my fog brain wasn't too much for you guys to follow. But for the most part, this build is absolutely pumping nowadays with the Essence Font buffs, with all the damage buffs that we've seen. And I'm having a ton of fun of this, and I hope that you guys utilize this, especially on those lower form content levels. But if you plan on pushing mythic raids or heroic AOTC, I highly recommend learning the 1-minute Yu'lon build. I have a video on that build. I'll link it down in the description below if you want to brush up on that build. But for now, I appreciate you guys sticking with me through this video, and I want to take this moment to give a huge shout out to not only my Patreons, which shout out to these guys, they're the names on the screen. If you want to see your name alongside these guys on the screen, then make sure and check out that link down in the description below. But I want to give a shout out to all of you guys watching this. You guys have shown so much support to my channel lately, despite me being sick and putting out the best content that I can while I'm sick, but I know it's reduced quality content from my normal stuff. But thank you guys nonetheless. You have been so amazing, and you're helping me live my dream of being a YouTuber, and I could not be more grateful. So hopefully this video helped you guys like you guys have helped me. Thank you guys so much for watching it, and make sure and let me know down in the comments below if I forgot anything or if you found any of this very useful and learned anything from this video. Make sure you guys hit the like button while you're down there, and make sure that you guys are subscribed because there is so much more healing content, more Mistweaver content coming your way. Guys, season 3 is finally out. It's amazing. I hope you guys enjoy it, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Until then, take care.